There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Nash moves that Senate File Number 856 be recalled from the Committee on State Government, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary, Finance, and Civil Law.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, that is my motion to recall and refer. This Senate File 856 has been in the possession of state government and has had 2 hearing dates. And yesterday, we as Republicans put forth our best faith efforts. We accepted some amendments. We talked about the need to get this moving. We talked about how it's an important issue to the state of Minnesota, how Minnesotans who are the true victims of fraud need to have the voice of the OIG brought online. And what we're seeing is a delay. One delay after another as we admire the problem, as we talk about how important it is, but we hold it in committee. And we talk about, oh, we've got plenty of time, but I would like to point out to the body, and Madam Speaker, it's a little loud, if you could.
Members, please take your conversations to the alcoves or the retiring room. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're admiring the problem, and we say, oh, there's plenty of time. We have time on our side, almost like a Rolling Stones song. We don't have time on our side. We have roughly 8 hearing dates left in aggregate here before we leave. That's not a lot of time. And for those of you that are first termers, that sounds like an eternity, but it's gone in the blink of an eye, and this bill needs to get moving. So what I would recommend, members, is that we put up a positive vote to re-refer this to the judiciary, where we agree that it should go. We will allow some of the amendments that we did not put on yesterday. We encourage them to be put on in judiciary to have a full-throated conversation around things that are germane to their jurisdiction in that committee. But here's the reality. You don't have time. Things move much faster than you realize. And a delay can only tell Minnesotans one thing. As we saw with the meeting minutes from the governor's OIG council, that the governor would like to see something different than 856. So again, as I said yesterday, one can only surmise that maybe that is the cause of this delay, that we're not actually interested in moving things out. And I would point out that you and I and the senators are the ones who make and move legislation. The governor can affix his signature to pass into law or veto it, but he is not part of the legislative process until we deliver him a bill that has come out of conference committee, or the Senate agrees with ours or we agree with theirs. That's how this works. So let's not continue to admire the problem. Let's not slow things down. Let's not prevaricate the issue. Let's get this going. You have a chance right now to do the right thing. And Madam Speaker, I would request a roll call on my motion.
A roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Further discussion. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you very much. And, you know, I just find the floor to be a fascinating place. This is really the work of committee. It's not the work of re-referral. When we had our discussion on Thursday, when I first chaired the committee, we asked for the DE to be adopted. The DE was not adopted, but then there was outcry, as though I had done something heinous by calling the vote for the DE to be adopted. Well, we discuss things after we adopt them. We don't discuss them always before we adopt them. And so once the DE was voted down, there was nothing to adopt. When an amendment is voted down, it no longer exists. So that's what happened on Thursday. I was very happy that Co-Chair Nash brought the bill back up on Tuesday when he had the gavel, because it gave us an example, or an opportunity, I should say it that way. It gave us an opportunity to go step by step by step of the things that some of the House members on our side of the aisle would like to see. Things like constitutionality. Separations of power must be respected, as my co-chair just stated. We are the legislature, the governor is the governor. So we do have separation of power, and in order for a bill to be effective, we have to respect and honor the Constitution. So that's one piece. 2 amendments of 9 were accepted. One of them did nothing more than change the dates for a bill that you wanted an urgency to pass, that every date in it was no longer appropriate. So, okay, great. We can agree that we have dates that need to be moved out. That's awesome. And as we went through the 9 amendments, 2 were adopted. The priorities of this side of the aisle for this to be a majority bill in the House were not adopted. And those things include things like preventative measures, ensuring that the OIG is not above the law and a rogue agency all by itself. Every entity of the state must be governed by the laws of the state. So there are things that really need to be fixed in this bill, and the appropriate place to fix those is state government. Constitutionality. If we are going to pass a bill out of state government, it needs to have the right separation of powers, and it needs to be constitutional. And this chair will not pass an unconstitutional bill out of committee. That's just not going to happen. So members, I'm glad there is a roll call vote. We have all sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution, and your no vote on this bill, to this motion, is a vote for upholding the Constitution of our state. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. There are minor things in the Senate bill that both Senate and House authors and people working on it think could be changed to make it better. Minor things. We are meeting, again, our working group is starting to meet on Tuesday. And we're going to sit down. We're already sending the stuff to each other. And I think a lot of this is going to be non-controversial. But it's got to be done in the working group, folks. It can't be done by one rogue party bringing in DE amendments that got the bill or bringing in individual things. Even if they're decent, it's got to be done in the working group. And everyone, I think, where most of us, we recognize that. Judiciary was the next stop for this, and it should go to judiciary because there is a potential language issue that Representative Cleavorn talked about. There's also some data things that I know, at least in the Senate and potentially in the House, very minor things want to change, and they're going to start working on that before it gets to judiciary. But what we saw last year with House File 1, which went through many, many committees, and we were amending it with the Senate languages, the language that the House and Senate had agreed to as we were negotiating. And then it got stuck in State Gov. So House File 1 died in State Gov because it was held by the chair, co-chair. This bill now is being stuck in State, well, there's 2 chairs. This bill now is being stuck in State Gov because it's being held by one of the chairs. It's stuck in a committee, and it needs to be at other committees too. The bill should go to judiciary now, and frankly, it could come back to State Gov after they've done their things and they've looked at it. But I think they have the right to do it, and by holding this bill up at a time when we have limited time to get things done, what you're essentially doing is killing it. And that's just the wrong thing to do. You're also making it so that other committees aren't able to take a look at it themselves, and they should. They should have that ability to do that while the working group works on these little minor amendments. So I ask us to move it there. If you want it back in State Gov after, fine. So thank you.
I recognize the member from Clay, Representative Joy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We were in committee last week on this bill when it came out. And, you know, when you look at this bill, if you follow the history of it, 60-7. In the Senate, it passed 60-7. Bipartisan work. The 7 members that did not pass this bill in the Senate were Democrats. 7 members. That's who they should be working with. They should be talking to those 7 members of their side of why they don't like this bill to move it forward. That's the most bipartisan we've seen. And now the Democrats bring this bill last week and silence us on discussion. And Representative Norris brings a 25-page delete everything amendment to a bill that passed in the Senate 60-7. When we do legislation here, we see it move along all the time with amendments being added in different committee stops to the floor. So to me, to hold this up in committee, to play party politics on this, when your members in that other chamber pass this. This is unbelievable and how serious the Democrats are about fraud. Obviously, there's other influence from outside, like our governor, that's pushing for changes to this bill. He doesn't want this. Here we are on week 2, brought it up, and it got stopped. Here we are. They're not serious about this, but just keep in mind, I want everybody listening to understand 60-7 and the 7 were the Democrats that did not like this bill, but it passed bipartisan. Let's get this done.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Minnesotans are sick of the fraud. They are sick and tired of the fraud. They're sick and tired of the fraud in state spending. They're sick and tired of the fraud in state government. People claiming to be for a bill while they're trying to slow roll and gut it. And they're sick of the fraud about claiming to be concerned about the Constitution. We saw bill after bill after bill passed in the last trifecta that have already been struck down as unconstitutional. Folks on this side of the aisle said, that's unconstitutional, that's going to get struck down. I, in fact, gave many times a variation of the speech we just heard from across the aisle. We all swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, and we saw 70 votes on the other side of the aisle time after time after time to violate the Constitution. We saw bills in committees this week that are unconstitutional being pushed by the folks on that side of the aisle. So don't think you're fooling anybody when you claim you're worried about passing bills that uphold the Constitution. Minnesotans see through it. But for those of you who don't, here's what the folks on the other side of the aisle are talking about when they're talking about the constitutionality of this thing. They want Governor Tim Walz, the biggest failure in overseeing fraud, to have unilateral power to choose who the Inspector General is under this bill. That's what they claim is unconstitutional. That's not gonna fly. The way this bill is set up is perfectly constitutional, putting the Inspector General within the executive branch, but putting some parameters around how that's gonna go. And if Governor Walz wants to challenge that, to give himself more power to choose a lackey to be the Inspector General, I welcome him bringing that lawsuit. I don't think it's gonna win, but we should pass this bill. Let him make that argument. If he thinks he can make that argument, let him make that argument. This bill, the way it is, yes, there are some tweaks that we should do and move it along in the process, but it is constitutional. Don't listen to the fraud coming from the other side of the aisle. Don't listen to the claim to be for a bill while they're trying to gut it, while they're trying to slow roll it. The people of Minnesota are going to see through that. Let's keep this bill moving along, get it to the Judiciary Committee where they can work out the data practices things, get it back to the state government, get this thing moving so that this new important agency can get stood up as quickly as possible. Don't gut it, don't slow roll it. The people of Minnesota can see through your fraud. Please vote yes.
I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Leader Niska, I didn't mean to speak after you at the direction of the chair, but Madam Speaker, would Chair Cleavorn yield for a question?
Representative Cleavorn will yield for a question. Representative Koznick.
Thank you. And members, I'm on the State Government Finance Committee. I was at the last committee hearing and the one before that, the first opportunity, the Democrats gutted the bill and the independence of the legislature in there. Yesterday, Democrats held up the bill and are slow rolling it under the guise that it's unconstitutional. Chair Cleavorn, what part of the bill, can you cite a line in the bill that you deem has constitutional issues?
Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you. Representative Kosnick, because I didn't know this motion was coming before me, I do not have my computer or the bill in front of me. So I cannot cite the line for you, but I will tell you that it was the A1 amendment that was offered yesterday. So if you have that A1 amendment from yesterday before you, you will know the line. Furthermore, I would like for you not to, on your side of the aisle, I would like for you not to call us lackeys for anyone. That is derogative, and we don't really have that type of decorum on the floor of this body. Furthermore, Representative Kosnick, if you would have read the DE and the Senate file that you are supporting right now, you would see that the majority of the bill is exactly the same. We have things that we definitely want to change. There are things like preventing fraud that need to be included. There are things that you are calling tweaks, like getting rid of the duplication of services and opportunities in there. And to the idea that a tweak in law, what does that mean? So a tweak in law could be something as simple as changing an article, a, an, and the. Simple words, but totally change the meaning of an activity. And you, on the other side of the aisle, 7th graders learn the separation of powers. We all know the importance of separation of powers. That is not a small tweak. That is a big deal. Constitutionality is a big deal. I can't tell you how many times I have heard from that side of the aisle that I should uphold the Constitution. Well, I'm doing just that. That's my job, it's my oath, it's my responsibility. No matter how many times somebody wants to call me names or tweet about me, I will do my job, and I have a backbone, so don't think you're going to bully me into accepting something I don't want.
Representative Kosnick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And that was an eloquent way of saying I really don't know what's so unconstitutional in that bill. The A1 amendment that was put into before the committee yesterday dealt with the legislature, the House and the Senate having our own legislative authority to say who an independent inspector general is that will inspect and enforce the programs and inspect for fraud within the executive branch's programs. Would Representative Norris yield for a question?
Representative Norris will yield for a question. Representative Kosnick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Norris, you are the author of the DE and taking this bill in the Senate. Can you share with the body what Supreme Court ruling you may be citing that the A1 amendment or any part of the bill is unconstitutional?
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Norris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Representative Kosnick. I don't have the Supreme Court case at the tip of my finger. What I will say is that it's very frustrating that we're having this conversation because I don't believe that there's any debate about this. I have now talked to the Senate author. I have now talked to the lead GOP senator. I have now talked to Representative Anderson. I have talked to the legislative auditor. I have talked to House nonpartisan staff who have all advised that this needs to be fixed in order for the bill to be constitutional.
Representative Kosnick.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. Again, members, another eloquent word salad saying, I don't know why it's unconstitutional, really. I can't cite a Supreme Court ruling. I can't cite a line in the bill, but we're going to just be frauds about it being unconstitutional. Members, Minnesotans are watching, and the mental gymnastics that we're hearing from the other side of why we can't address a very broadly supported bill to add an inspector general to fight the fraud and the corruption in the state of Minnesota government, the mental gymnastics it takes to vote against this motion, the mental gymnastics it took to not advance the bill so that the legislature can continue to work on that, That mental gymnastics coming from the frauds on fraud is amazing. It's absurd. Minnesotans should know who's holding up combating fraud and rooting it out in our state government. It's not the Republicans. It's the Democrats that are being frauds on fraud.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your granting me the opportunity to speak again. And Representative Kosnick, we have awesome staff here. So I was able to get the line of the bill. So if you would please look at page 5, line 4, you will find the information that you were seeking.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I believe I already did request a roll call, so that's on the way. Well, if you're a reader of the classics, you've probably read Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. And I would change the title briefly here, that this is a tale of two realities. The tale of two realities here today before us is that our side of the aisle is saying, move this along the way, and Chair Cleavorn, I'll just give you a slight correction. You said that we're voting on the bill here today. We're not. We're actually moving the bill on to the next committee where they can have discussion about the bill that needs to possibly make changes, and we're going to release the hostage that is 856 from our committee. So it's not a vote for the bill today. You can actually feel safe and snugly that you can actually move the bill along the way, because once again, that backward clock is ticking against us. One of the things that I love is the measurement and study of time, the Latin term tempus fugit. Members, tempus fugit. This is moving rapidly. The Earth is spinning around its axis faster than you realize, and the longer you sit and admire the problem, the longer you try to just bump this off, you become a little bit like a character in A Tale of Two Cities, Madame Defarge, who created a list of things to get rid of, mostly people, but you're trying to get rid of this issue, you're trying to get rid of this bill, you're trying to admire it in perpetuity so that the people of the state of Minnesota can say, well, gosh, they tried, they talked about it, maybe that's enough. Talking about it is not enough. Fraud requires action. So will you provide action? Will you stand up and be counted? It takes one of you to stand up and say, you know what? Let's move this to the next committee and let those committee members do their work. This has had 2 hearings just in the last week of elapsed time in state government. Do you need to hold on and hug this tightly? Or move it on to the next committee and let those members have their effort to improve the bill? As I said yesterday in committee, when, oh, by the way, we talked about the DE, under my gavel, we talked about it. Under your gavel, we just decided any author's amendment, any DE amendment just has to go straight to a vote, no conversation, no questions, particularly when it was page after page after page after page of brand new stuff. But yes, we should totally just put it onto the bill because that's what we do. Well, that is not what we do. And under my gavel yesterday, we made sure that we allowed every member, your side, my side, to ask questions. What a concept, asking questions. So my question to you today is, are you going to stand up and be counted? Are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to say simply, you know what, let's move this to the next committee. We'll let those chairs and those members do the work that we did because we engrossed some amendments. Let's get this moving. Release the hostage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the name of the member participating remotely.
Rarig.
They're ready for you.
Rarick, aye.
Rarig votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 66 nays, the motion does not prevail.